Jason Jones, you star in The Detour on TBS, which is currently airing its second season. Now, this season, the Parker family isn't on a road trip as they were in season one. They're living in New York City. Was that always the plan for the story and the show when you started it last year?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to do the road trip show, or vacation the series. The first season was the show is always about how far can we bend a family before they break. So season one was, hey, let's put them on a trip, a road trip, which is always stressful and awful. And then season two was let's send them to the most stressful city on earth. And season three, you're going to see even more stressful.
You'll have to send them to solve the Middle East peace crisis I think to escalate it from here.
Well, you just gave me season 5. That's
well, changing up the show from the road trip format last year, how did that affect, if at all, your approach to the comedy and the storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little easier because the last season took place over 6 days, so we had to always look exactly the same. It was actually much more difficult storytelling last year. This year we could we broke it up a little more, and although the last 4 episodes all take place within 48 hours, the first half of the season we span over about 3 months. So in that sense, it's a little easier. And a little easier in the sense that more can happen to you, whereas season one, there's only so many things that can happen to you on a road. And I think we stretched that pretty far. The amount of wackiness that can ensue on a road trip.
Obviously, the difference between a story set during a road trip and a story set in New York, were they very logistically different from a production standpoint? How did those compare production-wise?
Production-wise, it's a lot. I mean, the road trip was horrible because we were in the car so much, which is just the worst place to shoot. It's not interesting to watch. It's not interesting to film. I mean, like I think on the pilot, so you have a lot more time to shoot a pilot. I think we had 7 days for the pilot, or maybe even 8 days, and we were shooting the series in 4. So it was half the time. So I remember the car scenes. We would shoot it. We'd mount 3 cameras to the hood. Then we'd do cross angles, cross Natalie and I in the front. Then we'd cross the kids in the back. Then we'd go from the kids to us, like French overs. And then we'd do some free driving as well with a camera car. That was all in the process trailer. And then we would do free driving as well. So it was just so much coverage of not that funny a scene in a car. So this season was a lot more freeing in that sense, production-wise.
At the end of season 1 of the show, story-wise, you revealed that your wife on the show, played by Natalie Z, has a mysterious past and has gone by a number of aliases. Yes. What has it been like this season, blending the usual twisted, depraved family comedy with that mystery this year?
I mean, that was always. I mean, people who watched last season, they were, I think, questioning why we were doing those sort of recaps at the beginning of the show. I mean, they served as, some may say quite cleverly, as a recap to the previous episode, but also they were setting up season 2. There's a lot of information in those scenes that are a setup for not only season 2, but season 3. So there's that. And season 2 was really designed around those things, which was unpacking her life. If the theme we were exploring, season 1 was, are we good parents? The season 2 theme was certainly, who the hell did I marry? Which is like, oh, I'm married to a stranger. I don't know who you are, which is a fun unpack for a season-long arc.
You mentioned how challenging it could be to direct a show on the road, or to make a show on the road. You directed an episode last season, The Road, titled The Road. What was that experience like, in addition to producing the show, writing the show, and starring the show?
I mean, it's weird in TV because I'm the showrunner on the show, so all if it fails, it's my fault basically. All questions go through me, all answers come from me. Ultimately, I have a really great support team, and they're super helpful. But ultimately, it stops at me. So by not directing, that allows me to sit down between takes and just enjoy a seltzer or an apple, and maybe look at my lines. When you're directing, that's you're like what's the next? So you're working with the DP so much, and you're like, what's the next setup? And it's like one job. It's one job too many, which is what I learned last year. And then because I'm a masochist, I directed 2 this year. So
was it easier directing this year, logistically, or at least just having the experience before kind of made it easier to settle back into that?
You know what's funny is that actually this year I felt a lot more pressure than I did last year. I knew we had a funny show last year, but there was an expectation this year that people were saying, "Oh, this is a really funny show," and I didn't want to disappoint fans and be a one-hit wonder, one-season wonder, and just do one funny season and then you slowly peter out. I wanted it to be funnier, and so by that virtue, I feel a lot more pressure. I was relaxed in the production sense because I knew a little more what I was doing, but I felt more pressure to make a funnier show, which, depending on who you are, I think we succeeded.
And the cast has had time to gel as well. The core family. What has it been like? Growing into these roles with that cast over season 1 and now going into season 2. Has it been a much more just kind of an easy dynamic now that you've all had a season under your belt to come back and make this season?
I think with everyone, the biggest change is confidence. Maybe Natalie always had confidence. She's a wonderful actress, done many things, but hadn't done a lot of comedy. And I knew she was funny, and she knew she was funny, but the world hadn't given her a chance or a shot at comedy. So I think with a season under her belt, people telling her that, hey, you're really funny, she grew a million times this year. And I think same goes for the kids, because they were relative neophytes to the acting world, and the girl Ashley had done a little more than the boy. He had relative newcomer. They're pitching me jokes, especially him. He was, he would in the middle of the scene where he's talking to this new girlfriend of his in the first episode about how he's attracted to her because she wears a bra and boobs go in a bra. I think was the line. And then he's like, hey, remember that scene last year when you were describing me what boobs do? And you said, they just stay put. He's like, can I do that? I was like, yes, absolutely you can. That's a great callback. So they're really engaged this year, which I love.
The show is so outlandish in general. Some of the places you go with the show, are risque. The race war that's almost started in the season premiere, and you get gonorrhea. It's like it goes so far in so many different directions. Is there anything that the network hasn't let you get away with at this point?
I gotta be honest. I don't think there is anything that they've said that's too much. Oh, you know what? So in the 3rd episode, I'm not sure. Have you seen the 3rd episode, the home birth one?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay, you should watch that one. We take some swings in that one. Anyway, there's a home birth, and it's a mess, as many home births are. There's a lot of fluid. And I wanted to do a crowning shot, and they said absolutely not. Like, you cannot do. There's no way you're doing a crowning shot, because our kids walk in on the birth and they see that, and it's the image that is stop thinking about sex forever. And so I was like, I want to do this crowning shot. They're like, nope, you're not doing it. You're not doing it. So we strategized. Me and the guys got together, and we were like, okay, all right. Like, screw them. We're gonna do a reverse crowning shot. We're gonna do it from the baby's point of view. So we had a baby in the birth canal come out. So it was the baby's point of view coming out, like, through the labia. And the first thing that innocent, beautiful little baby sees in the world are 2 screaming teenagers, which So it actually forced us to be a little more creative with the shot because, I think we've seen crowning for the sake of crowning and shock, but I'm not sure we've seen the baby coming through the birth canal shot.
Well, that certainly is a new innovation for television that television has been needing, I think, for a long time.
Yes, yes, they've been dying for that shot.
This season also, you also introduced a few new characters like James Cromwell as your character's new boss in New York. How did you cast him, and what was like working with him?
Well, first of all, he's phenomenal. He's James Cromwell. He's every time he would come on set, I'm like, I can't believe James Cromwell's here. This is so great. There's a great line in I think it's the second episode. His character is my new boss, and he's renting out a portion of his place, his business, to the New York State IRS, and he's charging them for toilet paper. And one guy asks, hey, can I get some more toilet paper? And he just picks it up and wings it at him and says, those shit tickets are going on your bill. Which is something my father always says, call them shit tickets, which I thought was so gross. I'm like, just such a gross terminology for toilet paper. But coming out of the incredible chops of James Cromwell, it almost sounded classy. He managed to class up such an awful line. So that's what's great about him, working with someone who makes your bad dialogue really great.
In addition to the Detour, of course, you and your real life wife, Samantha Bee, also are producing her show Full Frontal, her talk show. Now, each of them is a significant undertaking on its own. So what has it been like balancing the two of them?
We don't see each other ever, and our kids are suffering because of it. No, I mean, we've become each other's sounding board. If she has a thought and thinks, I guess we're like sounding board's not quite great. We're a backstop for one another. I think that's a better terminology. I'm gonna switch up the terminology or the metaphors. I'm gonna go with backstop because sometimes you need to go to a person who isn't in the insular world that you live in for a little reality check. You go, is a reverse crowning shot too much? Is that too much? And she says, yeah, I think so. And then I go, nah, I'm gonna do it anyway. And then she sees it and she laughs. So, I was right on that one. And then there's other times where she goes, you cannot say that. You can't. And I go, with a day's reflection, go, yeah, you're right. I can't. And then I often give her advice on her show, and she doesn't listen to me. So it's great. It works out really well.
Speaking of a reality check, Full Frontal did start as the 2016 election campaign was ramping up, and now, of course, 2017, we're living in a different reality with Donald Trump as president. What has that been like producing this show in these new circumstances?
Well, it's funny. Everyone's still a little shocked when you say President Donald Trump, but I've been saying President Donald Trump since I want to say February, like right after she launched. I think it was February, and I said you better start saying it because it's going to happen. Because I was at the Daily Show and I traveled around and I talked to people, and people were just so fed up with politics out there, and he was that answer. He was that populist answer of like, he's not going to be like the rest. He is, but he was claiming he wasn't going to be, and I kept saying to her, President Donald Trump, keep saying it, because come November you're going to get used to it and it won't be that crazy. And then I remember she'd written a show, basically a Hillary Clinton victory show, and then I think Ohio was called. And she said, oh my God, Jason was right. And now I have to rewrite the whole show. So it's not that crazy for me because I've been saying it for a year now. People have only been saying it since November. But yes, it's to answer your question, it's a pretty good time for political comedy.
Very much so, and the show got has been was nominated for an Emmy for its writing last year, and you and Samantha and the rest of the producing team were nominated for a Producers Guild Award. What was that been like?
Wait, I mean, the Emmys are great. We won. I think we have an Emmy record at the Daily Show. Of the 10 years that I was there, we won 10 of those 10 of those 10. So that's pretty cool. And after time, you go, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then when it goes away, you go, oh, how come I'm not winning Emmys anymore? But it's a great feeling. It's always a great feeling to be recognized by your peers. It really is. It's a fun night to walk around, even if you lose. Talking with other celebrities and non-celebrities and fans. It's great. It's always great. Anyone who shuns awards is foolish, in my opinion, because it's like, why would you? It feels great to get a pat on the back. Why would you shun that?
Well, I want to wish you the best of luck this year for both Full Frontal and the Detour at the Emmys and for season 3 of both shows. Coming up in the future. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.